Headquarters of the Clark County Historical Society at 818 North Fountain Avenue in Springfield, Ohio. We're going to do an oral history of the Springfield City Market. And we have with us today Ottie Weigel, Russ Cantanzaro, and Jay McFarland, all who have been involved and are still involved with the City Market. I ask you gentlemen first to identify yourself so that we recognize your voice on the tape.
I'm Ottie Weigel. And
This is Russ Cantanzaro, and I'm Jay McFarland.
Sit up close and talk naturally.
Go ahead, Ottie.
You know, just to open, I have here an article that was written by Herbert Skinner in the Springfield News, November the 15th, 1967. And in that article, he mentions that the first city market was in the late 1830s and was located where the arcade is now.
All right.
Yeah, or where the arcade is today, tomorrow.
Yeah, around this corner.
It's half torn down on this date. And then in later, there was a city market on the Esplanade. The building was on the Esplanade, and it was City Hall also. And that was in 1848. And then the market moved to the present location, the city building, in 1890. Now, how did the city market get started?
Well, my dad was on the market in 1890 when the market opened up, and the rent was $20 a year. And if you wanted to rent a stand during the day, it is like Saturday, was 50 cents a day and 25 cents for half a day. Because a lot of guys used to sell out by noontime and they used to go home, you know.
Were you there every day?
No, that's all they had was just a Saturday, Tuesday morning and a Thursday morning and a Saturday market. That's all they had. But in the olden days, we used to get up at 12 o'clock midnight, and the market used to, 5 o'clock in the morning, the market opened up, and we had a crowd. It's not like it is now. And then
we
used to stay to 12 o'clock, 1 o'clock Sunday morning. That's how late. I remember when we bought a carload of watermelons at 6 o'clock at night on Saturday and sold half a carload of watermelons. Of course, it was, $3 for $1 in those days. I mean, there was no high prices. But in those days, we used to buy a carload of watermelons for about $50. That's all it was. $50, $75 for a carload of watermelons in those days.
That was in must have been the 30s.
Oh, that was in maybe 27. I've been on that market since 1917.
You had?
Yeah. I was just a little kid.
I was around that market from about 1917, just like I'm same age he is. And but I never worked in it till I was 1924.
We needed to
I worked there 6 years. When I went there, the whole center from end to end was meat counters.
Sure.
On both sides. The outsides were vegetables and fruit, farm stands, chicken stands, delicatessens, and cheese.
Then they used to have a fish stand as that was the last thing on the market, was a fish stand. They never let the fish stand unless he was the last stand on the market.
He was downwind from the
Way down the end. He was way down the end, close to Center Street.
There was 5 Weigels in there.
Oh, there was a bunch of Wiggles.
And the McFarlands were on the outdoors. There were stands all around the outdoors. And I was going to tell something I told McFarland side. I can remember my dad. They were doing late 20s and early 30s there when he opened up. At night he'd have a big piece of beef left or something. He'd go out, walk around the place, trade it for a goose or a turkey or a fresh ham or something that we didn't sell. Now, my dad tells a story that Now, I don't remember the one on the Esplanade. I never heard about that. He probably did. But he, first market he attended was down with the corner of Center and Main. And the second one was there at the corner of Fisher and Main. And the third one, that must have been when they were building the other one.
Yeah.
And then the third one was there where the RQ building is. And then when the other one opened up, they all moved into that. And each year they had to bid for their stand and which stand they got. But most of them they didn't compete too much, and they'd have the same stand each
Well, there
year.
was so many stands on the market at that time, where the fish market used to be on Center Street, where Smith's Fish Market used to be on Center Street. They used to have a free market there, because they didn't have enough stands on the market around. This was on the outside.
Well, yeah,
They didn't have enough
I've seen
stands.
them go up Center Street.
Yeah, go up Center Street,
I've seen
and
them
that
on
used to be the
Esplanade.
free market.
What do you mean free? They
Well, you
didn't
didn't have to
fee.
pay for for your stand. They had those all empty spaces.
But this, the price you paid for the stand, you paid it to the city?
Oh yeah, sure.
And you used $20 until the time they sold the
The
building.
market master came around every Saturday.
Yeah, collect the money. That is for the guys that they had the single stands, for one day, the market master come around. But then the other ones were on lease. 'Cause I got a lease down market that says 1890. My dad had a stand on it and it paid $20 a month, $20 a
They
year.
used to come in and collect for the electricity. And charge them.
Well, sure, we're talking about that's different.
Paid so much electricity for so many lights you had,
Yeah.
and the fan,
And
and
the
the fan
grinder,
that was
the
inside.
fan, yeah.
Then all the guys used to have they used to take the horses right at the end of the market. Right on Center Street, they used to have a big livery stable. Remember that? Remember the big livery stable?
Guy Hotel is?
Right next door to the hotel.
Or the gas company.
Well, the gas company right there used to close that in there. There used to be a big livery stable. They used to bring the horses up there to feed them during the day
Well, how did you get the market?
with a horse and wagon. Everybody had horse and wagons in those days.
Then did you take it home?
Oh, yeah, sure.
Right,
Oh, yeah,
and
sure.
come back,
Oh,
My
yeah.
dad used to take a load in get there about 4 o'clock in the morning. And then the boys would come back and take another load in at 11 o'clock in the morning. Horse and wagon.
From
And
where?
From where I lived on North Belmont. We had a small flower house there, and we had another out at Garden Acres, where we butchered the large stuff.
Where did the McFarlands get their meat?
My great-grandfather, so I'm told, stood on the outside of the market before the building was ever built. Then my grandfather came along, and he followed in his father's footsteps, and they became merchants along with his father. And they were standing on the outside, and I hear my father and my grandfather talk. I don't remember my great-grandfather very much. I remember my father and my grandfather talk about having to stand on the outside. They couldn't lease them by the quarter or other than by the day. By that day they had to market, so they had to get up early in the morning before anybody got there and got the stand they wanted. And then it came along until they could lease the stand. Then they'd lease it by the quarter, and then so they could lease it by the year.
Yeah.
And they had these makeshift kind of fold-up tables, and they'd take them up there and set them up, and had canvas to stand up over, put up over the top to keep the sun off the vegetables. And when we were standing on market, the McFarland was standing on market, we were outside people, and we raised produce. We had garden truck patch, raised vegetables in the summertime, and then had meat in the wintertime.
You had mainly pork, didn't you?
Yeah, we were just pork people at this time. We didn't have anything.
Is it true that you weren't allowed to sell pork chops?
Yes, sir. They had an ordinance in the city of Springfield. Anybody standing on the outside was not allowed to sell pork chops because it would not be classified as country-style merchandise.
But
So
you
we
could sell
purchased,
it.
then my grandfather purchased a stand on the inside, and then when we slaughter hogs, we prepared so many of them for the inside stand, so many for the outside stand, so we could
My
keep in
grandfather
compliance with it.
he was up there early. He started out in about, I don't know, my dad grew up around there. They butchered there on East Main Street, there where the drugstore is now, near Belmont. And
Drug Castle?
Drug Castle. Their home was there, right in that area. And when he grew up out in there, they started back probably in the one you were talking about. Because he came here from Germany in the 30s.
Okay.
Presbyterian Church, yeah.
Now, you were saying, Jay, that your grandfather built the cart that he brought in?
My folks stood outside. They had these little makeshift, as I've already said, tables. They'd fold them up and they'd take them back and forth with the canvas over the top to keep the sun off. Then in about the 33 or 34, my father built we had a four-wheel trailer bought that was fit in a properly spaced stand, and he'd bring it to the market behind the truck, and it would open up, and we'd sell out of there in the summertime the vegetables. In the wintertime, it had a meat case where we could slide that meat case in there. And the regulations on the books in the city of Springfield, the ordinance was you could sell meat from the last Friday in April, and you had to stop then, and you could start the last Friday in October. Between the April and October, you were not allowed to sell meat outside because of the
No refrigeration.
Yeah. And we'd raise 20 acres of garden, sweet corn, bring several hundred dozen sweet corn up there Tuesday morning, Thursday morning, Russell said, and Saturday all day. And you had people just pick it up and take it away from there like they hadn't had anything to eat for a while. We picked 27 bushel. One Friday we picked 27 bushel of lima beans, and we'd shell them before we come to market on Saturday. We shell 100-pound sugar sack full and take them down there and sell them on market without no problem.
But in the supermarkets, they didn't have no place to go except the market. And they must have sold maybe 2 or 3 carloads of bananas there about every month. Why, I can remember when Joe Dema and Frank and Joe Dema and Pavania used to have a wholesale house right close to the market there. And they used to bring in the bananas on Monday, and they used to sell them bananas out. I mean, 2 and 3 carloads apiece. Of course, they all went broke. Both of them lost $50,000. I know Joe Dillon lost $50,000 there. That was right close to where Heinz used to have the restaurant. Can you remember where Heinz used to have the restaurant? Well, right next door, those 2 new buildings. Papanea was in one of them, and Joe Dillon was in the other one.
Was that on the South Market Street?
Yeah, on the South Market Street.
You know the old Singer Bar, that was where Heinz.
Yeah, they're Heinz.
In the days when you're talking about those supermarkets, neither were they a whole lot of vegetables shipped into the market all winter long.
No.
Just about a month before homegrown stuff come on, you get some shipped in close around. So now then you have the fresh vegetables and all these things.
You see the oranges
year
for
round.
Christmas. You see the oranges for Christmas. You never had them like you had got them now.
We thought it was a luxury from the greenhouse.
Oh, sure. If the greenhouse didn't grow up, we wouldn't have no lettuce.
I remember my dad talking about coming to market with his horse and wagon, and he stayed till 11 o'clock at night. They lived out on the New Carlisle Pike, which would be about 6 miles probably or 7 from the market. And he'd drive the horse and his wagon out past Dr. Heason's place there on Sugar Grove Hill on down there. And when he got past Dr. Heason's place, he could wrap the lines around the buggy whip and sleep the rest of the way home. The horse knew the way home. And he'd wake up when the horse turned into the lane at home.
My father butchered beef Sunday morning for Tuesday for Thursday, and Thursday afternoon for Saturday, or Friday, whichever it was. Because then everything was fresh then. There was no aging or anything to meat. And I don't know why all this aging came about, because everybody seemed to enjoy it then.
But then
For sure, refrigeration in them days was just ice.
Just ice.
Yeah.
They put,
Right. But then
Buck Finn Myers pulled in there with a team of mules, stacked that full of ice. They come about 3 times a week and check it in the hot weather.
they used to eat a lot of salt meat in those days too.
Yeah.
They wouldn't have If they didn't sell the meat, they used to salt it. Because I can remember old man Wilson out on Limestone Street. He used to have salt his meat
Yeah.
in those days.
Well, what did they sell on market then that they don't now? I remember just a few years ago inside, there's
Well,
things.
you
they
could buy
don't now.
anything live. You could buy live rabbits, you could buy live chickens, turkeys, geese, or ducks. You're on the outside, and you go down there every Saturday, you can buy any kind of a live animal like this you want, and take it home and dress it for yourself.
Well, then Mr. Rankin, can you remember Mr. Rankin? He used to have the rabbits hanging around on the outside without no refrigeration out there.
That was wild rabbits in the winter.
Yeah, wild rabbits in the wintertime. He used to bring all them rabbits in. And he used to buy them that way with the furs on them, still with the fur on them.
I don't remember that.
Oh, yeah.
I don't remember that.
Well,
They used to grade horseradish, have horseradish graders and sell fresh graded horseradish on the market. You don't see
You
that.
were scared to walk by it too.
it was
Yeah.
hot work.
Yeah.
I remember one time.
They used to make a lot of smear case too. That's just like cottage cheese now. Remember how they
Cup
used to
cheese, they make cup cheese.
Yeah,
and stuff.
cup cheese. Remember that? The guy used to have that stand right in where my stand's at right now. No, where Longo's used to be there, right inside the door there. And they used to have that big long stand there. Used to have all kinds of smear case, pickles and junk like that.
Oh, that was just like a delicatessen stand, yeah.
Yeah, remember years ago? Yeah, there was.
How many people were on market? I mean, that had stands?
How many stands were there?
I
100?
don't know.
Oh, I see.
There was 80-some inside, wasn't there?
Yeah, I
It
suppose
was at least that many.
Plus those lined up on
Well,
the south
and a
and
couple
north
hundred
market.
outside.
And I think the ordinance regulated where the meat markets were inside too. They had to be on the, there wasn't no meat market allowed on the outside walls. They had to be down through the middle.
Isn't there something in the law, some legal requirement that a city market will be on the floor of the city building?
Well,
Wasn't there, is that a rumor?
I don't know if it's rumor or not, I heard that.
it was very strongly promoted for years and years at that building. The Snyders had given that ground for the purpose of having a market, and when they built the market, it must be something to it, because on both sides of that building, in the middle, they got the headstones, City Market on there. And they're still up there yet today. They're still there.
All right.
Yeah, and it was very strong. A lot of sentiment, a lot of feelings was that if they ever ceased having a market there, that land was supposed to revert back to the heirs.
To the
Or not there was any heirs
Yeah.
around anymore.
Snyder family?
Yeah.
Well, it's just like Snyder's Park. They're not supposed to leave no
What
money
was
in
the
the
name of the
park.
family that had the arcade? I can't think of it right now.
I don't remember.
He used to deal with me. Lived down Yellow Springs.
Kelly.
Yeah.
Yeah, Kelly.
Kelly, and then her name was,
They used to,
yeah, different name.
when they rejuvenated the arcade at one time, you know, and they had stands in there.
Yeah.
I remember that. Yeah,
I remember.
they had fruit stands and
Pork
everything in there.
had a
They,
stand
of course,
out
it
there.
didn't,
I
it
hear
didn't
older people
prosper.
talking about that.
It didn't prosper
They
at
had
all.
you should remember that, though. They had I remember Burkhart had a stand on East Main. He moved down there.
Yeah, I know
He
there's a
was
bunch
good,
of,
though.
but they didn't, it never, well, they didn't have enough live wires in there to really make a go of it. You just can't put, this is like our market. A lot of our market, they come in there and they say, well, they like to get a stand, but they're not market people. They just come in there and they think they're gonna sit down, they're gonna do business. They ain't gonna do no business. Well, used to people like go in there and crochet and do things like that, and the people are not gonna, they just look at you. They don't wanna buy anything from you.
You were never one to let somebody walk by without buying something, were you?
That's right.
We had something to offer. We say, hey, we got it here.
Well,
Your father don't need to look any further.
I said, we was born when we was poor.
But you didn't know it, did you?
That's right. We was poor and we had to fight for our business,
Survival.
see? And that's the reason we'd always prospered, because we always fought. I mean, we never just say, if you're gonna work, you're gonna work. If you're gonna play, you're gonna play.
One thing I remember about the market in my earliest years, when you go to market, my dad would take us to market once in a while. Now, we didn't get to go very often. But when the people used to gather, I mean people in rows of people, there always seemed to be a family spirit. You know, 5 or 6, 8 people standing in front of your stand, you all got to talking one to another. And it was more than just coming to market. It was kind of a time of fellowshipping with the people in the community.
And the Wild West women used to come in there early in the morning,
Right.
with an electric car, and have a chauffeur to carry their baskets. And then there was kids in the market that worked as basket carriers
Right.
too. And I remember going downstairs in the afternoon, and they'd be down there dancing and loafing and cutting up.
Yeah,
Well, no, we would never dream of going downtown unless we were dressed up.
that's right.
No,
That's
they
right.
always,
Just wouldn't do it.
and one thing I remember, I'll never forget this. This was back in the early 30s. I wasn't 10 years old yet. Dad took me to market with him one time, and it was cold. It was bitter cold, and that's the coldest place in Springfield, on North Market Street. When we had to come down Fisher Street, hit that building, and we were right east of Fisher Street there. And man, I'm telling you, it could freeze you to death. And while my dad was putting the stand up, the table and the tarp over top, he said, "You go in the market there, and by Maddie's, stand inside there and keep warm." So I was standing in there and had them wrenches along the wall there. And I walked down across there a couple of times, and Maddie says, "Hey," he says, "Are you hungry?" She wanted to give me something to eat. I said, "No, I'm in here." My dad told me to come in here and stay in here where it's warm until Maddie Guthrie, she was sticking in my mind the rest as long as I
Mattie Guthrie.
Yeah, that's Maddie. She was over in the new market there.
How did she get started? She was in what's known as the Myers Market
Right.
Building, which is now the Elderly United Building.
When they built that building in 1918, she opened up that stand there.
In 1918. Did she open it to serve the people working on market, or?
Well, anybody.
She always had
There was always a crowd
She always
uptown.
had a good business.
Always a crowd uptown, and they come down there from Kohl's and every place to get hamburgers. She didn't have much else at that time. Then she started getting into more food. I don't know when, but I think just a hamburger stand when it first opened, wasn't it?
She didn't have very much space because there was other vendors in there where she finally, the vendors left out and she kind of brought it out and took in that whole section there. But I remember vendors would be in there, but there'd be people selling bread and stuff in behind there. On both sides, you had a division down there. On this side was her little counter, and on the other side was other vendors. And Ottenfeld was
Well, when I
over
went
the
around
cheese
there,
and
there was a stand at the end. Yes, it was another chicken stand or something at this end. The natives had 19th Street. And then they brought
And you had a bakery down there in the corner. Was it DeMoss or somebody? Who was that baker in the corner on the southeast corner there?
I don't remember. He wasn't the one that opened it.
DeMoss, the
DeMoss
community kitchen.
Baker, this lady's name was Baker, wasn't it?
Well, community kitchen was catty corner from
No.
out here.
This was the bakery.
I know what you mean.
When you come off of the North Market Street in that east door of the Myers Market, right there on the right there was a bakery.
Yeah, there was a bakery there.
Big bakery.
Yes.
They had the machinery there. Big
Delicious, had delicious pastries,
Yeah.
donuts and stuff.
Yeah, we had.
It's,
Well, the people started to move out of the market then when they talked about destroying the city building. And a few of you stayed, not many.
There was quite a few out already then.
oh yeah. When they were really talking strongly about doing away with the building, there was about 5, 6, 7 merchants left. Never got below that.
When I closed,
But,
about that time,
yeah.
when they started talking about it. In 75?
Yeah, but the market had never been closed one day.
And I think we did as much business then as we do now.
Yeah, really.
Of course, we was the only one. I used to have that, well, at one time, I nearly had that whole north side of the market there, except the candy stand and, what's her name, the one that died? Right across Catty Corner, right across.
Velma.
Yeah.
She's the one that
Velma McCarty.
sold the cottage hams.
Yeah.
Well, she worked in my
Can't get
market
in a place else.
She worked in Dr.
Oh, yeah.
Hopfeld.
Yeah, I worked for Oppenfeld when I
Before
went.
she moved over in our market.
She moved over
She
where
took-
his brother
She took my
was.
dad's stand.
Yeah.
Where your brother was there at the last. Pete.
You're related to Harry?
I'm his uncle.
Harry's dad is his brother.
Harry sent his brother because somebody.
Well, you know,
he
you used to go to market and you would go to Velma and get a cottage ham.
Oh,
Right next to him was a man that had nothing but cheese. Just a little
that was,
stand there across from you. And then you get your vegetables from
Fred Molly.
and then you went around the corner and got your pork from McFarland's. And then next to that was a delicatessen, the Priest.
Yeah.
Yeah, everybody had their specialty down there.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
I think we all had.
But there was a time though when there was a lot of the same kind of merchandise on the. You take 8 or 10 meat men in that center street there, they all had beef
There was
and pork.
30 people in there sold pork and beef. Now, we didn't sell much pork in the summer. We sold ham and bacon. But my dad bought all these pork in the summer. We butchered in the winter. But we sold a lot of lamb and veal, see, because there wasn't much around town outside of over where I used to be and where Dodson was there. See, each end of that market had a grocery in it. It was, I don't remember, my cargo was one of them, because my sister,
Bauer was the last one. Was
my
in
sister
the
worked for her. My older sister worked for her. That was where Bauer was. And then there was another one at the other end. And there was a restaurant behind it.
Yeah, he was in there. There was one in the other end,
And
too.
there was a restaurant behind it. And police department didn't have that downstairs, and did they?
No,
Just upstairs.
They were on the second floor.
the second floor.
So you would come in with your horse and carriage, a cart, bring your cart in, and then take it home after business in the early days.
Yeah.
And then you have to cover a covered bridge out on
That was before my time. Yeah,
Well, I
there used to be a
remember
covered
I remember
bridge
that.
Sure.
on where it was on Buck Creek. Or back
I
there.
think there's one on Route 40 and one on 41,
Yeah.
as I recall.
I don't remember
It was
41. but
41 and it was about
There
7.
was one or two on 40, when there one over Buck Creek and one over Mad River too.
I think so, but they're by the High Edison.
Or did they go together before that?
I remember going across the covered bridge.
Yeah, I do
Yeah, I
too.
do.
I remember covered bridge, but I don't remember being there.
We were talking off the tape about the cost of doing business and the utility cost. Back when you first started at the market, you didn't have refrigerated meat cases.
No.
They had ice.
We had ice.
Ice and
You get it.
somebody bring the ice in.
Yeah, they had ice men go down the street and
Chip it
bring
up.
your ice.
Chip it up to a milk bag.
And did you put salt on it then to keep it colder, or just use ice?
We never used no salt.
We never did because we ate pants.
You know, we used to have icemen that come around your house, and you
Right.
had the card in the window that
Right.
told how many pounds you wanted, and they had a fish man, and they had a bread man, and a milk man, and a broom man. Those things are all gone with the supermarket, I guess.
You had,
No.
you had a grocery store about every other corner on the streets.
Right, Clowers and Fulmers and
Well, before then, it was just plain groceries, all
Mom
they
and
had.
Pop.
Cheese and canned goods and dry goods.
But they sold very little fruit because we had so many stands of fruit down the market.
Yeah.
It was just pitiful how many stands. we
Where
had.
did you get your fruit back
Well,
in those days? You
in,
didn't get it from California.
Well, we got it California and we got it from Florida. They used to come in the ice packed. The strawberries used to come in ice packed. What would you say?
Crates.
Crates. But there'd be about maybe 100 pints of strawberries in these crates with ice in between them. And that's the first strawberries when they come in.
I remember my dad telling about getting fish, and he brought it down on the railroad and brought it over and sold it.
Yeah.
From Lake Erie. And then it was fresh, that's the way they sold it.
Is that where W.T. Smith got his fish?
That's where he got it started, that was
Oh,
before
yeah.
he was there, I guess.
Oh, yeah. But they used to have fish stands, I can remember way back. They used to have the fish stands down Market. Yeah, I think I don't know if Smith was there then or not. But I can remember fish stands on each side of the market, way at the end.
I remember one, over there were.
Yalla used to be there and another one, there used to be another one there. And, oh yeah, there used to be two fish stands.
Yaller was poultry, wasn't he?
No,
Joe Yaller?
No, that's different Yaller.
Oh,
That's the,
This is the one that used to have the old Buick come around and blow the horn, sell you fish at your house.
Yeah.
Well, he's the same one that had to stand on the market.
yeah. This Yaller you're talking about, the fish man, he used to be right across the street, right across the way from our
Chicken
stand. Yeah, right across the street, right across the way from our old stand down the
Right.
market, you know, up by the middle door.
He owned the house I lived in, and he lived on Clifton Avenue.
Yeah,
He used to dress his poultry right there on South Market Street, just on the alley.
yeah.
Then, what was the guy's name? He used to have a stand right up there where Bird Hut was. Don Trout. Trout's had a grocery store on the south side.
Yeah.
The market house there too. Then they had a city meat market there. Where Red, what was his name? Had a meat store over there.
Well, when I first went there from the, I don't know what alley you'd call that there, it goes over from the market there, you know, beside where the poultry house was.
Yeah.
Well, the meat company was right there on the left side, and then they moved up there. And they tore that down, see, near the parking lot. And there was a grocery on the end.
I think it was Fulmer's Grocery on the end,
With
wasn't it?
flowers. So,
Clark's and
and then I went to
Fulmer's, yeah.
And then
You can remember that, can you? Can you
you'd have
remember
meat
that?
left, they had a storage over there. You have a piece of round or something, you wrap it and take it over and hang it for a week, until you open up again.
That's where the aging started.
That's, I guess. And, the, next block there, on that corner where right now was, I forget what was in there. And then there was next to it was a big slough, colored slough. Remember that?
Oh, yeah, they call it saloons up there.
And there was something all along there, all those stores would be filled up.
I don't remember when this started, but when they first started the inspection, the meat inspection, on the market there was a goodly number of merchants who were selling fresh meat. But when they instigated the inspection, the city came around to inspect your meat when you killed it. And the cost was more than they could absorb. And a lot of the fellows just quit. Couldn't butchering. Because when the city came out to inspect the hog, it would be so much for the first hog, and the next one was 5 or 10 cents for each hog thereafter. And the first hog, the cost was so great that a lot of the fellows who were only killing one hog, they just folded up and quit. I remember my father talking about how many, he told how many it was, but I don't remember that anymore.
I think all the beef butchers quit when that inspection started because it had such a demand on the place where you killed it.
Yeah, the regulations.
You had to have sealed walls and all that, you know.
That's where the dairy farmers and everybody else, isn't it?
Sure, all the dairy farmers had to quit. My father-in-law had to quit.
Regulations spread out into every segment of the industry and eliminated a lot of people who were trying to get by and make a living for their families. They eliminated a lot of them.
And
But the
only inspection you used to have was a state man come around about once or twice a year, check your place, see if it was clean.
now the meat industry in the state of Ohio is at least under state inspection, where you're slaughtering. The city doesn't have anything to do with that anymore. And
You have to have them out there every week.
the state inspector has to be on the premises before you ever slaughter one beef, or pork or anything. They got to give a live inspection. Then you stay there as long as you're slaughtering, and then when you finish slaughtering, they'll leave. They're there all the time you're slaughtering.
How much an hour does that cost?
That does not cost for the state inspection. No, you pay so much a year for a license to do that, and they provide the inspector. But the cost for doing business anymore, the utilities, the electric and the gas and the paper supplies, it's unbelievable. Paper supplies to operate our business was $300 to $350, $75 every 2 weeks just for paper supplies.
This is to wrap.
Just for paper wrapping, paper sacks and stuff. And the electric bill, $600 for the butcher shop, besides the amount of money it takes to pay for your utilities here at the marketplace. It's really a challenge to a merchant to figure out so he can make it in this day's economy.
Well, the little man's going to be, it's going to be harder every year for the little man to stay in business. I know it is for us. I mean, you figure your truck and cold storage and your light and all your Social Security and everything, it really takes you down.
Would you believe it, Mars Market used to furnish the utilities. And when I went in there in 1943, I paid $125 a month for the stand and all the utilities. I had 36-foot cooler, 30-foot case. That was the old ammonia mill, but it dried out and I replaced it in 45, 6. But I still got my utilities and stuff for a while. Then they put me on that, but then after that, I got to put us on there. They'd pay for their own utilities.
Well, you moved there in 43, then you moved from the old city market over to...
No, I would move from Southern. I was going to call Southern.
Oh, I see. Let's go back
I
to
worked for
this.
Fulmer's 10 years before that.
This, you mentioned the man that sold fish was the one that would go around the neighborhoods and blow the bugle. Is he the only one that did that in
No, there was
Springfield?
two.
Jonesy. The fellow named was Jones.
Well, yeah, I think it was
Well,
one.
Model
before- I think it
T40
was-
used to
I
have.
think it was one
I was
before
thinking the
that.
Model T Ford, and you mentioned Buick or
Yeah, no
something.
Buick toy car.
So Jones...
Jones had the
Model
Ford.
T.
I remember him.
And what was the other fellow's name then?
Yower,
Yaller, okay.
Oh, yeah.
Right.
Harry Yower.
Which, I think Jones is the one I remember, because he had a Model T
I remember
Ford.
him too.
And, of course, this has nothing to do with the city market, but you mentioned the horse would go home by itself. We used to watch the milkman. The horse would go
Right,
up to the next
sure.
house, stop, and then move on.
The horse would be hungry, he'd head for the barn.
Right.
Well, but you take a horse on a route like that, they soon learn where the stops are. They learn to turn where they turn, and they pretty. You can train them.
You drive the
You
same
can
way
train them.
every
That's
day,
right.
wouldn't you?
They trained to become pretty efficient.
But we have this newspaper article in 1928 on the city market, and
That's about the time I was there.
Frank Halloran,
Yeah.
Philip Becker,
Yeah, he was.
Roland Deffenbach.
Yeah. I knew both, all of them, because they were right next to us.
Is that the beggar that had the butcher shop out on Rockaway?
This little old Dutchman.
This,
He had just sausage, bunch meat. He used to buy all nature stuff. I've seen him weigh wieners, and he had the real thick specks on them, and he'd break a wiener in two.
William.
I said,
Instead of telling you how much he had, he'd break one in two.
there was with this one colored stand on the market in those days, a meat stand. And they're the one that had the net all over their stand. They had fly net way up on the end of the market.
It was just regular screen.
Yeah, it was a screen net, I think.
what end of the market were they? East or west?
Out the west end, out the west end of the market.
And
The two girls came down, Mark, what was that? No, what is this now? I'm talking about a long time ago. And then two girls came down about 10 years ago and come down and talked to us.
he was kind of a slender brown man when he had heavy eyebrows. I
Yeah.
remember him.
They used to have a stand up there with, his two daughters worked for him there for a long time. And I don't know, they must have moved to Dayton.
Can't
I
think of the
can't
fellow's name that took the stand over, but his son was operated Bugers over there.
I can't think of their names anymore.
Weren't there a lot of people back in those days who just had a truck farm that would come in?
Oh, yeah,
summertime
summer.
and,
They raised garden and bring it in and sell it. A lot of them.
But they were the outside people.
Yeah,
around
they would
the-
come in.
Some
They bring in
inside too.
fruit, they have fruit. and
They would come in
vegetables
and-
stuff and bring them in.
They would come in.
They'd take it into the inside market, but they had to stay on the outside walls with it.
Yeah.
They weren't allowed in the
Inside.
center.
No.
Well, there was no meat, no vegetable stands in the center at all. There was not,
All
all
meat,
meat, all,
cheese,
all,
stuff
you
like
know,
that.
like they are. They had the refrigeration, get even with their,
Like the graver,
their
used to
ice.
stand over on that one side, and he always had vegetables, all over the place. He'd have vegetables.
Some
Johnny,
of the vegetable stands had raised chickens brought them in.
yeah, they could have that.
Oh, yeah.
And Sperling, Gus Sperling, he had vegetables. He had the greenhouse out here.
Sure, they used to grow all the celery here.
Celery, bird huts.
When
Out
I
there on
was
Thomas
working,
Avenue.
Reese's greenhouse used to always bring in a lot of leaf lettuce in it.
Leaf lettuce. Well, in Cincinnati,
Tomatoes, they had hot tomatoes and
Well,
leaf lettuce, they grew them in their greenhouse out there.
in Cincinnati, you know, that was, the tomato business was a big business in Cincinnati. Grew tomatoes in the wintertime, that's the only place we had tomatoes come in. They had the greenhouse in Cincinnati, and boy, thousands and thousands of baskets every day.
They were high as meat when
They were high for a while, and then they come down, we sold them 3 pounds for $1, you know. That was cheap on those hot tomatoes.
it was high then.
Huh?
It was high then.
First, yeah,
Probably
sure.
twice as high as the regular tomato was when they
Oh,
first come
sure.
on.
Oh, yeah, they're always higher. Well, now they're about $10 a basket for 8 pounds for a hothouse tomato.
Was there
Because
anything
of
else,
the heat.
anything we've missed that we should talk about?
That's about it.
Not really.
About the only thing I think about.
Well, we thank you very much for your time.